Welcome to Dynamics of Dialogue, your one-stop shop for peace and love on the airwaves, a safe space for people of color and our allies. Join us every week as we have real dialogue with people going through real life. Your dynamic, your dialogue. Come get some. Welcome to Dynamics of Dialogue, and this is your host, Ty Davis, and I am here today in the studio with Lachea Farmer, who is our resident brand expert and culturalist.
Welcome.
And also with Adria Kitchens, who is our feminine power life coach specialist, and I'm actually calling you a money manager too, because I know that's what you do by trade.
Hi.
And I know you're doing that right now a lot in a lot of different ways. So, yes, thank you so much for joining today. Now, today's topic, we're talking about unlocking your growth potential. I think that these two women right here have actually been very instrumental in my own growth process and unlocking my potential, particularly as it relates to my business, i.e. this very podcast, right? So I wanted to bring you guys on to share some of this magic that you have, and how did you get to this place where you had this aha moment that said to you, okay, I need to change, right? Because there was a catalyst that started this whole your business and your business, right? So what was the aha moment for you where you kind of became unstuck and realize that you could really, go far and do what you're doing in your business? You want to go first, Adria?
Oh, sure. We were talking before, like I've had lots of aha moments. I wish I could name just one. Mm-hmm. But, when I think about just the path I'm on now, it was really, I couldn't go any further with where I was. Mm-hmm. Like I was in this space of, I hadn't really dealt with a lot of my own past trauma, mm-hmm. and I lost everything financially because I was in real estate at the time.
Oh boy, okay.
And I found this beautiful program called mm-hmm. Feminine Power, mm-hmm. and it was the one program that helped me really recognize all those inner beliefs that I was holding on to. Like I could sense this potential in me, but of course I felt beaten down at this point. But this program was the one that helped me start to name what those were, and then I could really see. I could finally see like the bridge to it. I didn't know how I was going to get there or how long it was going to take, but I started to see the bridge to a path that I could really reach my full potential, and that was probably the biggest aha moment for me, because when I look back now, that's when I really just reflect on where I was and where I am now. This is like getting to it's not the end, but it's like a big huge I don't know, I'm really on the top of the mountain right now in terms of what I do.
Right,
yes.
right. So for you, the thing that kind of really opened it up was being able to name what some of these blocks were, to really become present and realize, okay, this is what's happening. So one of the things you said also is that after you were able to name these blocks, that you were able to actually see your path to your full potential. And what did that look like for you when you actually realized, oh wow, like I could do it this way, or it really wasn't as hard as I thought it was?
Well, let me say it this way, because I don't want people to think like you can just name them all and then you just
right. No, it's not like a magic bean.
Like a magic bean. Because really, it's like a process, right? It's like every step of the way, new beliefs come up based on where you are. Mm-hmm. So those were my first ones were really facing my own past trauma and healing myself, and then the next ones were whatever those beliefs were that were keeping me from. Like this glass ceiling that was keeping me from making myself visible, really doing all that, having the confidence to really step out and do the things that I knew I could do to help people. And when I talk about seeing my path, I don't know if I actually saw the path. I was just on the path. What I think happens is when when you can sense the potential, it can be really painful
Mm-hmm.
when you don't like see any way to it.
Right.
You're like, obviously where I am now, I cannot reach that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I began to see when I was able to start naming these like invisible things in my own
Mm-hmm.
life was that there was a path, that I could be on the path, and that was okay for me to just keep walking, take the next step.
Wow.
Whatever the next step is.
Right,
and
because
just
you
do
were
it that
already
way.
doing it. You were already in motion. You had already begun to heal yourself and release yourself from the things that were blocking you with confidence. And you were already on the journey by the time you realized it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that almost does sound like a magic bean, right? So, what about you, Lachea?
Well, I'm from an area where you don't really do creative things. You do manufacturing things, and you do nursing things, and you go get a real job. So, I had always been into poetry and writing, and you can't make money with that, right? So, I started working with a few people in the neighborhood that were, well, from the city, not necessarily the neighborhood, but they were great artists, recording artists. They needed administrative assistance. I'm like, oh yeah, I can go ahead, I'll file some paperwork for you, I'll do all this, yeah. So in that process, I learned that there was another way. There's a completely different side of the economy that makes more money than what my cap that I'm told I can make here. So the more I'm working hard with that, I'm realizing that I'm going way too hard for other people. And I'm totally neglecting what I'm really here to do. So I picked up all these skills that weren't what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And just because I was good at it, I found myself doing it.
Oh.
So,
Wow.
once I developed these skills, I realized I was a business. I was a walking business. No matter where I am in this country, I should be able to collect some type of income. I don't have to be stuck in one location, the same shift every day. I don't have to do that. I need to figure out what my favorite skills are, enterprise those, and make the money the best way I can. The aha moment for me was when I had my daughter.
Okay.
Everything shifted in. I was a single mom, and I was told what my caps were. Well, you have this child now. You have this baby. Everything's going to be different. You can't travel all over the country like you used to. You can't go to all those rap concerts. You have a daughter at home. So those were my caps. And it wasn't until I met you, Adria. I did the Appreciative Inquiry Training, Cultural Competency weekend. And I did a lot of self-reflection that weekend, and I always check myself, but it was just something about the few weeks prior to that training. It was just a different reflection. It was really me holding myself accountable for the times I told myself no.
Mm-hmm.
The times I told myself I couldn't do it. Because nobody else was really stopping me from doing it. I just was allowing these no's to come into the conversation.
Right.
So once I let go of those no's, I had probably 3 or 4 epiphanies about my business just in those 3 days. I was like, okay, this is my path, this is my path. And that's what cleared me to do even more healing, to dig even deeper, to dig into where did those beliefs come from? This is generational. Like, you've been hearing this all your life, and it's not just for you.
So one thing that I'm hearing from both of you is that the blocks that were kind of having you stuck in your personal lives had a lot to do with needing to heal.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And once you got over that, then you started getting the focus in the business.
It's self-inflicted pain in a lot of situations. You're
So
really not as hurt as you think you are, and you're really not as blocked as you think you are.
It's all those beliefs that you hold on to personally. Because
Yes.
that's what we do. We hold it. We believe things that are completely not true. Based on our past experience, based on generational beliefs that keep getting passed down. You can't do this because you have a daughter. You can't, all these things. And we have to be the ones to say, okay, wait a minute. Why am I believing this?
right.
Is it true that I cannot do all these things? Is it true that you can't travel with your daughter?
That's how I travel. I
Exactly.
figured out how.
She's a part of you.
Yeah, I went to YouTube and I was like, let me see if there are any other moms in the entire world traveling with their children. Let me see how they're doing it.
I
That's
remember
how I learned.
when after Lonnie was born, I sent her a ad. I saw there's a product and some genius probably a woman, came out with this luggage that you can write on. And I sent it to her because I'm like, oh, yeah, I could see you and Lonnie in the airport with that right now.
There you go.
Yeah.
She understands airport etiquette.
Yes.
She's trained.
Right.
She understands.
And it doesn't, and it doesn't have to be a barrier. It doesn't have to be a barrier at all.
You think it's a barrier? It is.
It is. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really will stop you if you believe it does.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sometimes. And so, what about the internal dialogue? Because I could imagine, right? Because we've all been through this experience of having this kind of transformation. So when you recognize that you have this internal dialogue, I mean, I know you've made the shift, but I'm sure that internal voice just doesn't go away. Right. At some point, it's going to come back and say, you're an imposter. What are you doing? You're doing
It doesn't go away. It's not, and I don't know if it's about it going away as much as it's about you accepting it's going to come up and knowing that you can navigate through it and say, okay, well, I see there you believe that, and yet this is what we're going. It's okay. We're going to do this.
That's what helps me. Instead of I know the fire's coming.
Yes.
I just need to kind of navigate it.
Yes.
And that's actually my favorite word to use. Ty hears me use that a lot.
Yes.
I say navigate. Anytime there's an issue, you know what? Let's figure out how to navigate this. It will come up again. So if we have this contingency, we'll be fine.
Exactly. It's flowing.
Right.
Because most of my life I spent like resisting. And when I finally realized, if I just flow with it and stop resisting, like Coco. We flow, and it makes a huge difference. That to me is what the navigation is all about.
Yeah. So, and I'll just give everybody, the listeners out there in official D&D land, what's up. So Coco is my dog, and she likes to talk as soon as we start recording the podcast. She'll sit here perfectly quiet, and once we hit the record button, that red button goes, and next thing you know, she's talking and making her presence known. Yes. So, yes, and so part of that acceptance, right, is just, lean into it. Make her a part of the show. So I bet you if I told her to say hello, she wouldn't say anything right now.
Don't let Ty fool you. Coco is the one who greets you at the door.
Exactly.
Yes. So, yeah, she is sort of like the concierge, so I guess she likes to be, in the introduction, at least in one part of the show.
There you go.
Right, yeah, so, yeah. So, yeah. But it's true, and that's just another great example, right? Because that's how it opened up for me, was, again, meeting Adria and participating in her life coaching process, that I began to realize how much of I told myself no, like you said, Lachea. I told myself no a lot. So I know that you all work with people, right? Well, we all three of us do. We're working with other entrepreneurs regularly. And for you, as a brand expert, Lachea, how really for both of you, I'm going to pose the question, how have you noticed people's personal blocks prevent them, from really succeeding in business, from launching where they want to be?
Well, I notice when I deal with entrepreneurs, one of the biggest blocks is funding. They believe funding is what's stopping them from executing their plans, when the reality is the plan that's stopping them from getting the funding. It's completely the other way around. And it's very hard to explain that to a struggling entrepreneur who's looking at the money coming in.
So say that again. The plan is stopping them from
the lack of plan is what's stopping you from getting the
This
funding.
woman is very wise.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I want her to say that again.
It's very wise.
That's right. It's the plan. So
really the plan.
So let's talk about the plan.
If we really can sit down with you and get to the core of your purpose, your goals, the things you want, you really love to do, the things you will wake up and no one has to force you to do every day. And we can figure out what those skills are, attach a few dollars to it, that'll help you eat and live. We might have a business here. So, with funding being one of the blocks, it's also very difficult to explain to a struggling entrepreneur that you need to focus on you. You are focused on other things other than your business. You really are not as focused on, you're not here 24/7 like you think you are. You're really here 20 hours a week and you're somewhere else most of the time. So it's kind of hard to get people to hold themselves accountable for how they treat themselves.
Right. And so, and let me bring this a little bit home for you, because just to use myself as an example, You know, in the beginning, when I first started working with Lachea as a brand expert, she asked me some questions. You know, sent me a form and asked me some questions that kind of made me think about my business. And what that does for you is it makes you intentional about what you're doing. And so I found that the more intentional I became about my business goals, about what I want to accomplish with this community, then all of a sudden, my willingness to maybe negotiate things that I would not compromise areas that's not really in my best interest, that's eliminated. You know, it makes the focus of what I'm doing so much more crystal clear. And if you just think about it, it just makes sense, right? If you put the intention into what you're doing and you make it materialize the clarity of what you want to do, then you have a better chance of a better outcome of being successful, right?
Well, I like what she said because we don't put ourselves first.
Yeah.
We think we're focusing on our business and we're doing all these other things, going here, doing all this stuff during the week. When if I was at a regular job, I would be sitting down doing my job, 9 to 5, whatever those hours are. And I have to treat my business the same way.
Right.
Right? Especially when you work from home. I work from home. I'm like, I sit at my desk. And my friends used to laugh at me because I would get up in the morning, I go get dressed, and I go sit at my desk because I can't, my mindset. It helped my mindset to say, oh, no, I'm working, as opposed to Adria's just at home. Because on the weekends, I might sit in my pajamas. But that tells me I'm off work. And I might still work, but, I'm relaxed.
There's nothing wrong with you showing up to look good for yourself at work.
Right.
Why should you not look good? You're going to work.
Right.
You know, that is important. I'm glad you do that. And I wish more people did.
Yes. Yes. Wow.
Yes.
That is so important. So let me just ask you all this. So if you were to offer something to a person, a creative or an entrepreneur that's struggling, I guess they're all really the same thing. You know, if they're struggling, what it seems like we've talked about it like it's really easy, but that's because we've all been through this process, and it's not an easy process. But if somebody wanted to to make this kind of change, how would they get started? What would they do?
I want to piggyback off what Latrice talked about, this finding what you want to do. You would do it regardless of whether someone was paying you, because we're all good. In all honesty, we're all good at a lot of different things. Like, I'm good at a lot of different things. However, where is the place where I am excellent and I am unique? Like, nobody else can do what I do. And that's the place that I'm here to. Those are the people, and that's the place where I'm here to serve. And it's not as if there's competition, because it doesn't matter. Because no one else is here to do what I'm here to do. No one else is here to do what Latrice is here to do, or what you're here to do. But it is finding that if we can find that place, that, my mentor Claire in Feminine Power, she always talks like your zone of greatness. That is your zone. Where all those things come together, the things I would do for free, the things that other people are like, this unique hidden thing that you can't name, but other people can name it for you. And that's the space where you need to find, because that's the place where you're going to find the biggest, the most leverage. Let me change the word. The most leverage to really push off of, which is, I think, what you were speaking to, because that's your leverage. Oh, yeah. Because you're going to do it anyway, and you're going to put your all into that one.
I like what Adria said about, I just can't get over it. She said, I got dressed and showed up to sit at my desk in my house. And that is important. Because you would literally get dressed at 6 a.m. You will drive in the snow if you're from where I'm from. You will show up pretty with your makeup on. And you will sit and work for somebody else. But you cannot dedicate that type of care to your own occupation. Like, you created this. You built this from the ground up. Care. Yes. Care. It's okay. I'm not going to lie. There's times I'm like, no, not today, not today. But if I'm getting on a video chat, I'm not looking like that.
Oh, no.
I'm going to pull it together.
Yes, all the way.
It's going to make it, like, even times we'll have discussions like, hey, are we doing video?
Yeah.
Or is this just audio? Because it's important.
It is.
Show up for you.
And sometimes it's important just to do, especially when you are a struggling new entrepreneur. Like, I don't do that every time now, but I do get up and get dressed every morning. I'm not in my pajamas. I might not have the makeup on, but I used to do that every day like clockwork. I had to, because for me, that's the only way my brain would say Adria's at work.
And that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Making yourself important. Because, again, I think it's about tapping into who you are. I think part of the reason why healing first helps is, like you said, it helps you connect with your confidence. It helps you connect with your abilities. And for me, it helped me kind of do the same thing. And once I did that, that's exactly how I decided to put this community together, because it made sense, right? If I'm going to do something for a business, why not let it be something that I love so it doesn't feel like a chore?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I think healing's the biggest part, because I think we downplay that, but really that mastering your own psychology and energy is what actually allows you to go out and do what it is you're called to do. Because if I believe I'm a failure and I act out that I'm a failure, I am not going to go do the things that I need to do every day for my business. I'm just not, because I don't believe I can do it.
And it's also about where you put your energy, because I found that as I got further in this healing process, I am now I'm adamant about how my energy is spent. Because now I realize when I get into a creative zone and I tap into that confidence and I'm discovered something new and I'm putting together something new for the hangout, if there's some other distraction that comes up that's in a different space, a lower vibration, it'll stop me from doing what I'm doing. It'll take my focus away. Most importantly, the creative energy. And the creative energy never materializes the same ever. For me, at least, right? So once that piece is gone, it's gone. So now I'm more protective of my energy. So now when I'm ready to do something and I've set my intention, my energy is here. Whatever else comes up, that integrity to self now, because I'm healed. Well, not all the way. I feel like I sound like,
It's a journey.
Yeah. But, now because I've done that, now that lets me set that boundary to say, no, I'm not going to give this attention until I'm completed manifesting this little piece of work right here.
And that boundary is important. That form you discussed, that's why I created it.
That's right.
It was a boundary for my time. I was dealing with a lot of entrepreneurs that had no intention. They had no intention. But I was letting them into my space. I was giving them my time. Some of them I'm investing my own money into seeing you grow, and you have no intention. So here's the form, fill it out, thank you. And
what does that form do for you?
Well, what the form does for me is helps me figure out who you are and helps me figure out your narrative. What are you wanting to tell? What is your story, so that I can communicate that story to the people you need to communicate it to.
Yeah.
If you don't know your story, it is extremely difficult for me to help you write it out. So the form is designed to
Make you do your own work.
Outline what your goals are, and then after I can see that, and hey, maybe I can help you, or maybe I'm not the person for you.
Yeah.
Either way, neither one of us is wasting our time.
Yeah, so it seems like part of where that challenge is, you said if people don't know their story, then it's difficult for you to retell it, right, in the form of a bio.
It's not that hard for you to tell it. It's just hard for people to tell their own story. Because you're looking at it from a driver's seat, not a passenger or viewer. You're looking at it from the driver's seat, so it doesn't look the way you think it does. So what I don't even like when I don't transcribe the story. I have someone else listening, and
That's beautiful.
You're giving your narrative. I'm not telling you what to say. I'm asking you questions. You're telling me what you want me to tell people. This is what it sounds like. If you don't like the narrative, let's change it.
Right.
Let's figure out what part of this narrative counts and which one we want to stop saying about ourselves.
It seems like, but you struck on something when you talked about how the perspective that they're telling it from the driver's seat. And that really comes from not being connected with your inner self, not having the ability to go inward and be introspective, to look at and connect with what your deeper desires really are.
And understand, this form is about the company, the brand.
The brand.
It's not a personal form at all. It's what are our goals here with this entity. It's not about you, but it's about let's figure out.
But she talked about having this other person transcribe the narrative, because it's important to have other people.
Yes,
I think it's so important to have other people tell you the things they see in you and your story, whether it's your brand for your company, because you're not going to see it. You're too close to it.
Exactly.
Other people can see the things that sometimes you don't see, but we are, I think, often scared of what other people are going to say instead of just allowing them to say it and just taking it in, not taking it personally. This is just what they see, because we never know what they're going to say.
Right.
That's how, I found out so many things about myself just by listening, just by allowing someone else to say, what do you think about me? I had this little leadership assessment that Deetra gave us. And I filled it out, and it said I was like an affirmer. I cannot remember the name of the little thing. But I asked my friends and other people to fill it out. And then I found out, like with men, I show up completely differently than I'm showing up with women. So with women, I show up really affirming. With men, I show up very assertive, which is okay, but it's not okay if I'm trying to be in a relationship with a man. I mean, it's okay. It's okay to be assertive. I'm just saying that, I'm trying to be in a relationship. Do I really want to show up affirming or assertive?
Right. It's how you want it to relate.
Right. So it's the same thing with your business. You need to let other people allow other people to give you feedback, and let's not be afraid of it.
Yes.
Right. It's okay.
Right, because I think part of it is when you talked about being. There was just I wanted to dial back to one part you said about. God it's just gonna escape me. But it was the point I wanted to make was about being back to being connected to yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like if you are afraid of the negative aspects of yourself, then it's hard to hear. If you're at war with the negative aspects of yourself, it's hard to hear that. And sometimes in that place where some of those negative things are the places where you need to grow. So if you don't hear
there
it,
you go.
you're missing. Really, it's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
I like that you use the word war.
Yeah.
I like that word.
Yeah.
That's really it's like you hear this and then you're fighting, and it's like, well, this is who you are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is who you are.
This is what we're talking. The flowing, the navigating.
Flowing,
it's just who you are. Just accept it. Say, okay.
Yeah.
This is part of who I am. How do we work with this?
How do you work with it? And how do you make it work for you? I know for me, overthinking. It's a byproduct of my past experiences, right? So it's just so much a part of me. I have to, I can control it sometimes, but I have to figure out how to make it work. How do I make it work? I create a platform that thrives off of my overthinking.
Yes.
Right. And then I get to, and because I get to, exercise so many different avenues of opportunity through this community, then it's a way to use it as a strength.
When you created a space for that analytic person.
Yeah.
Yes.
They needed a space.
Yeah.
You created a space. I think it's a great space.
Through accepting. Thank you.
Through acceptance.
All through
Yes.
acceptance.
Part of acceptance, I put together this form. Of course, I put together this form for other people, but I was like, how fair would it be if I gave people this form and didn't take it myself? So I gave myself a form, and I went through all here, and I'm like, okay, let's pull some intention out. Let's get some goals here, and I did that. So I'm with my assistant, and I'm like, I don't think I was fair to me when I took that form because I wrote my own narrative. That's not fair. So she and I agreed. We're gonna redo these. We're gonna write each other's stories.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because how fair is it that I'm not letting someone write my story?
Yes, like you do for everybody else.
Why would I do that?
Right.
So
Yes.
part of that was me figuring out what to name my company. I didn't fill out the name section for a long time. And a lot of entrepreneurs focus on the name before they focus on the brand. So story is more important than the name. So as soon as somebody tells me, I'm trying to figure out what to name my company, I'm like, don't. Build the company, name it later.
There you
Because
go.
we focus too heavily on
Yes.
the name instead of the essence of what we're doing.
Because
So
you
now-
need a story to tell people.
You need-
What is
I
the story
can't
of your
sell anything you
Right.
have without this story. It is impossible for me to sell anything that you have without
your story.
I need to connect. We need this connection. I need to know.
Yes.
I need to know.
Yes.
And and it's so amazing because I can say, I just got to that point where I have finally named my business, and it's just these conversations, being in this space. Part of this is a testament to about the energy from the company that you keep, because now that the company that I'm keeping is different, I'm getting guidance and information that's helping me. Once I began to get crystal clear about my intention with this podcast community and what I'm doing, then I got to be more connected with the name. I thought about, I'm a person in my family who's done the genealogical research. And I wanted it to be something that was reflective of me, really, and my blackness, really, of my black, just black of that, but also something that is meaningful and inspiring. And I thought about one of my earliest slave relatives that came here, enslaved Africans. The first one that we have recorded on my dad's side, her name, she was given the name Darky. That's the name she was given upon coming here. And what she did in turn, I had to sit with that for a minute because that name is so heavy. But what she did in turn is when she had a son, she named her son, and God forbid, so sorry if I'm saying this wrong, but Boaso, Boaso. She named him that, and I happened to look it up, and it's the name of a town in Ghana. And it kind of came to me that she likely, there's, I can't say for sure, but there's a likelihood that she would have given him that name as a reminder of where she came from because of what was done to her. Her name, Darky, imagine being taken away and then you're just given something like that. So I thought about that name, a name for how we came here. My intention for the community is for people to heal and grow beyond our traumatic experiences. And I thought, what better way to honor my ancestor than to give a name, use that name as a company that's kind of set up to bring people together, particularly people of color, along with our allies, but to grow for the purpose of becoming better people, to becoming better entrepreneurs, to becoming unlocked from some of this generational trauma that we've experienced in our lives. As much as I talk about it, it proliferates everything, almost every show, but we're here talking about business and just calling attention to the fact that both of you ladies expressed that you had your breakthrough when you realized you needed to heal. And that's why I want to create that space for healing.
But see, that's a story.
Yeah.
She can do something with that brand.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a story.
There's a story to tell.
There's intention.
There's
Yes.
intention, yeah.
Yes. Yes. And that
Yeah.
draws people in.
All right.
That's what we don't realize. It's like, what is the story I need to tell to draw the people who are mine? The
Yeah.
people who will be lit up because I'm talking. That's the people you're here to serve.
Right.
Right?
Right. But see, I wouldn't have come to that place had I not gotten into a place where I could really name the connection. Because for me, it was, had I still been disconnected from myself, I wouldn't have really used the integrity that I now have towards me to really honor me, what it really reflected. Because that blackness is important to me. My cause may be, so many things, but that part of my identity is important. You know what I mean? So it was only through the experience of getting unlocked in that regard that I see it. And it was only through the experience. And I'm pointing at, because it's my interactions with both of these people that have brought me to this place where I've been able to have this clarity, this level of clarity and understanding.
I'm so happy.
Yes. Beautiful.
I'm so happy too. I mean, there's rough moments, right? We have rough moments where like you have to accept that you've got another person on the show, another different species being. They're not going anywhere. But again, right. When you have energy that around you that supports your intention, then you're really creating the path for yourself to.
I appreciate Adria bringing the topic of resistance. Because we don't trust that voice that flows. We feel the resistance and we push through it. We don't honor it. We don't honor the resistance. We're like, oh, that's just, we've gotten, especially women, specifically black women, we've gotten so used to just pushing through. To the point, I believe that the people who could push through the hardest were the ones who survived, and then we learned that. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
Wow.
So because that's what we saw. That I know that's who I learned it from. And when I go deep in the conversation with my mother, and she sees me doing things that I shouldn't be able to do, she's like, back up. Well, Ma, who taught me to go? Now, I've always felt like I've had to fill my grandmother's shoes, and she worked hard, single mother in the 60s,
Wow.
It was different, and because of that, I took on a lot of masculine traits because I was taught that you got to take care of you. There was a lot of fear-based, no love, it was always survival. That was the whole background. But then when I started healing from that, and you know what, maybe I should talk to my dad. Let me heal from that. Maybe I should open up. And that's what allowed me to let some of that resistance go to where when I'm getting into a bad situation, or not even a bad situation, just one that's not for me, I don't want to say bad, one that's not for me, I feel it and I move away from it. And that's important business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes because we can stay too long, or we get involved in we engage in the wrong relationships, business relationships, because this person is a friend, but we're not really enforcing the boundaries that we need to enforce to really preserve all of that. So yeah, all of those things are really important.
Well, we haven't learned to trust our own inner knowing,
Oh,
right? Because this whole pushing through and overriding, when you don't have this relationship with yourself, you constantly override your inner knowing. And so you have to learn how to trust your own inner knowing. Mm-hmm. Even with, especially in business relationships, right? Mm-hmm. To say, oh, okay, so maybe we shouldn't go in that direction.
Yeah, trusting your
maybe we should just be friends. Mm-hmm. And maybe I should look for some, and that's okay. That's okay.
That's something to try and work out. Like if we're getting into something and she's like, I'm not really feeling it, and I'll be like, well, let's professionally at least extend every aspect to say we did what we were supposed to do, but we know how this is going to go. Let's exit this professionally. But you're not feeling it? Yeah. I'm not feeling it.
Right.
Let me see how we feeling about it. I see why you're not feeling it.
Right.
And that counts.
Mm-hmm. It counts. It counts.
I'm used to having to override. It's just keep your feelings out of business. That's what.
Right.
And that's how we override. We override.
Right. Yes. Right. But then that teaches us to disconnect from what we really know is true.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And then to keep us, and it's like a mechanism, because if we listen to our intuition, it'll keep us out of a lot.
Yes.
It really will. Yeah.
One thing I noticed, I did look at because Tyree did the form, because I'd have my clients follow up annually. Mm-hmm. So I did the form last year, so Ty's the first one to retake it. So I do have to chat with her about that. But one thing I did notice when she first started out, there was a lot of we language in her form, because she had a partner, and there was a lot of community and a lot of us and a lot of it wasn't Ty focused. Mm-hmm. This time she did the form, it was a completely different analysis of Ty's plan. Yes. Completely. Then I read over it like this. I can do something with this. She has really, really significant intentions for 2019. I think we're going to have a good time with official DA.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
I believe it. Yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
I do. Thank you so much. So we're running out of time, but I've got to ask you both. What would be your parting thoughts? I see Coco's given her parting thought already. So what would be your parting thought, Lachea, if you wanted to share with somebody, what are 3 top things they should do if they want to get started?
I'm trying not to rant. First, control your narrative. Like, really take ownership of how you feel about yourself and what you tell people about yourself, and more importantly, what you're telling you about you. Always keep your goals in the front. Do not make excuses for your goals. Treat yourself like an employee for your company, the same way you would hold Joe Smith accountable for showing up late. Hold yourself accountable. The same way you would hold Joe Smith accountable for not sending that email. Write yourself up. I'm just saying, because these are the systems that will be in place when you hire somebody else. This is your standard. This is your brand. So, see, I don't even know if that was 3 things.
That was 3 things, yes. You've got control your narrative, control what you tell yourself about yourself, which is part of that first one. Always keep your goals to the forefront and hold yourself accountable.
Okay. Oh, and one more thing, money.
Money.
Plans over money.
Plans over money.
Plans over money.
Plans over money.
Yes.
Plans over money. Okay. And Adria, what about you?
The first thing I would say is what we've been talking about, this healing piece, is mastering your own healing. being willing to recognize that that's actually the most important piece. Like, if I can start to master my own beliefs, then I can leverage all of that to hit the next level in who I am. And then the second thing would be the piece we talked about with resistance, is being able to just flow and recognize that we have got to stop pushing against and just go with and just allow ourselves to, just like we're on I've never been on a surfboard, but just like when you're in the water, right? You just go, you just flow. You actually don't have a lot of power to control where the water takes you. To some extent you do, right? But you don't have a lot of power over the water. Just flow with it and let it go. Right? And I love what Latrice, I just want to piggyback off that. It's like, show up for your own business just like you would for everybody else's business. That is like the most important thing. We don't do that for ourselves. We show up for other people more than we will show up for ourselves. Yeah. And if we show up for ourselves first, that will determine the standard, like you said, of how our business will run.
Mm. Wow. And that's something, what you just said about the water just kind of remind me about the resistance and the flow, because boy, resistance was a big part of our problem, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. All of us, yes.
I can laugh because it was. But, when you said that, it really makes me realize water is such a powerful force.
It is.
It's calm and it's soothing, but it's so powerful. You will never fight a wave.
And,
right?
and that's
You'll
what surfers say. They don't fight it. They go with it.
You got to go with it.
You have to go with it.
Yes. Yeah, you do. Yeah. I thank you all so much for sharing your expertise. I'm hoping that somebody got something great out of this, by us sharing. I know I got something great. Right. I did. So I hope that everybody else did too. So if you did get something great, listen, I want you to give us our feedback. Give us some feedback. Comment on the post. Hit us up, official DFD on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and join our community at officialdfd.com. I will see you all next week, and remember, be intentional with your plans and manifest your best. See you next week. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our show. Tune in every Sunday at 3 p.m. at officialdfd.com. Follow us on social media at officialdfd. Your dynamic, your dialogue. Come get some.